Hey, welcome back, everybody. We are reading Sharon Draper's Copper Sun, and we are on chapter 16, which is Teenie and Polly, and this is the last part of part two, the last chapter in part two, based on Polly's point of view. This is another long chapter, like 15, so we may have to split this one up into two videos. Just a heads up. So. And we'll go chapter 16, Teenie and Tidbit. Polly entered the shack, not knowing what to expect. The slave girl, who was about the same height as Polly, followed hesitantly behind her. As her eyes adjusted to the dim light, she looked around. It was just one room, barely large enough to turn around in, made of rough wooden planks. It held a small wooden table, a chair, one bed, and a straw mat on the dirt floor. It smelled faintly of sweat. "I've lived in places much worse," Polly said to the slave girl, who had already sunk to the floor and curled her arms tightly around herself. She thought back to the damp and moldy shack she'd shared with her mother while her father was in prison in the attic room at Jeremy Carton's place. The slave girl whispered words that Polly could not decipher. "You better quit talking that jungle talk," Polly admonished. "I'm pretty sure that'll be frowned upon in this place." She scowled as she looked at the confused expression on the girl's dark face. "I don't know what Mr. Derby is thinking. How am I supposed to make you civilized?" Polly looked closely at the slave. Her cheeks were sunken into her thin face, which made her eyes seem very large, like a deer's. When the two girls exchanged glances, Polly could see bitterness flash in the slave girl's eyes for a moment. Her lips were full, but her nose was tiny, almost like Polly's own. Polly was unaccustomed to being this close to a Negro, and she marveled at how dark and mysterious the girl's face looked. A thin sheen of sweat covered the slave's slim body. Her hair, thick and matted, obviously had not been brushed in a long time. Welts and bruises, some of them quite recent, covered her arms and legs. Polly's stomach suddenly growled, and she pressed her hands against it. When had she last eaten? The slave girl watched Polly carefully, then grabbed her own stomach. "Well, I suppose you're hungry too," Polly said. "You have no idea what I'm saying, do you?" The girl just stared at her. "This is impossible," Polly shouted, and the slave girl cringed. "What am I going to do? What am I doing out here in the shack taking care of some savage?" Furious with frustration, she pummeled the lumpy straw mattress with her fist until she was out of breath. "What am I supposed to do with you?" The girl shrugged as if she understood. Polly sat down heavily in the wobbly wooden chair and ran her fingers through her own uncombed hair. Her stomach growled again. "Suppose we must start somewhere," she said with a sigh. Hungry, she said, rubbing her own stomach. "Hungry." Polly put her fingers to her mouth and moved her lips, as if she were eating. "Hungry, eat," she said, not expecting a response. The slave girl looked around cautiously. Then, to Polly's utter surprise, said quite clearly, "Hungry, eat." Polly looked at her suspiciously. "Either I'm a very good teacher, or you're not as stupid as you look. Eat food," Polly said, adding a new word. The slave girl repeated the phrase easily. "Well," Polly said with a look of amazement on her face, "I'm just going to talk to you as if you understand and teach you new words as we get to them. I imagine the sooner I complete this task, the sooner I can be assigned some more respectable duties, like sewing or serving the lady of the house." The slave girl stared up at her. "From what Mr. Derby told me, this place is called Derbyshire Farms," Polly began. "It is a rice plantation. Can you say plantation?" Polly repeated the word slowly. "Plantation?" "Plantation," the girl repeated. Although she certainly hadn't expected this, Polly refused to show the girl any encouragement. "I am Polly, and I work for Mr. Derby just like you." She hesitated, then she added, "Well, not exactly just like you. You're a slave, which means you belong to him." "Slave," the girl said clearly. Her eyes narrowed, and her lips drew back fiercely over her teeth as she said the word. "Well, she knows exactly what that word means," Polly thought. Let's do something easier, like introductions," Polly said, trying to change the subject. "I am Polly," she said, pointing to herself. "Polly." "Polly." "Yes," Polly said, allowing herself a smile. "And you are Mina. Can you say Mina? It's your new name." She pointed to the girl on the floor. "Mina." The slave girl shook her head. "Amari," she said with pride, pointing to herself. "I warned you about talking those African words," Polly reminded the girl. You are Mina, she said it clearly several times. No Mina, the slave girl frowned and shook her head forcefully. Amari, she said it again slowly. Amari. Polly sighed and said, Amari. Amari smiled at her for the first time. Amari, she said again. Well, Amari, the master and his son say your name is Mina, so you better learn that one, since it looks as though there's not much chance you'll ever get back to Africa. Just like I'll probably never get back to Beaufort, she added, almost to herself. Not that I want to. The door of the cabin burst open then, and the shortest, skinniest black woman Polly had ever seen pushed her way through the door. She barely came to Polly's shoulder, but she carried herself with the dignity of a giant. Hiding behind her skirts was a very small boy, about 3 or 4 years old, who clung to her leg like a little insect. Well, ain't this the berries? What we got here? She boomed, even though the 2 girls were sitting right in front of her. Finally, Polly said timidly, how do you do? I'm Polly, and this here is Mina. Oh, I know who she is, the little woman said with a smile. I knows everything. Hiding stuff from me is like trying to put a socks on a rooster. You want to know the dirt going on around here? You just ask old Teenie. Tiny little Teenie. Ha ha. Then she erupted into a full, hearty laugh that didn't seem possible to Polly, considering how small the woman was. And this here is my boy Tidbit. The child retreated further behind his mother, but he peeked out to see the new faces. Pleased to meet you, Miss Teenie, Polly said with difficulty. She didn't think a Negro deserved the title of Miss, but somehow this woman seemed to require it. Her father had taught her to disrespect Negroes, but her mother had taught her to respect her elders. Don't be calling me Miss Teenie unless you want to get us both in trouble, gal. Just Teenie be fine. Y'all hungry? She asked with a broad grin that showed she had almost no teeth. Y'all both about as thin as a bat's ear. Hungry, Amari whispered. Well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit. The little Africans speak a little English, huh? Don't let the master know, guy. Play dumb as long as you can. With that, she turned and headed out the door, her child right behind her. Come on to the kitchen. I'll set you up with some victuals. Lord of me, she said. Now we's got an African and a dish you got to keep track of. She walked toward a small building just off the big white house, so quickly that Amari and Polly had to trot to keep up with her. The child Tidbit scurried next to his mother, and the small brown dog scampered up to join them. Smoke snaked from the chimney of this cookhouse, and the smells of stewing pork and fresh bread wafted from its narrow door. Enticed by the smells, Polly eagerly entered the room. A stone hearth made up the entire back wall. A huge pot hung over the fire, which held a delicious-smelling sauce bubbling within it. How did this tiny little woman lift that heavy kettle? Polly couldn't help but wonder. Cooking pans and long utensils that she had never seen before hung from spikes nailed into the wall. She saw jugs and pointed sticks and even some utensils made from gourds. The floor was hard-packed dirt. In a matter of minutes, Teenie had 2 steaming bowls prepared for the 2 girls. Polly took a seat at a bench and motioned to Amari to do the same. Polly picked up her spoon and noted with disgust that Amari put her hand into the bowl and greedily scooped the food into her mouth. Table manners, she mentally added to the long list of impossible tasks ahead of her. Tidbit sat with them, eyes large with questions. His bare feet swung beneath him. The dog curled quietly under the table. Polly smelled the food, then tasted it. Brown peas flavored with salt pork, maybe? Mashed with onions into yellow rice? Polly thought. Looks bad, tastes wonderful. This is very good, Polly said to Teenie between mouthfuls. What is it called? What's that you say, gal? You never had no hoppin' job? Ain't you got rice and peas and salt pork where you come from? Not like this, Polly admitted. My mother wasn't much of a cook. All the old folks say that if you eat black-eyed peas on New Year's, it's supposed to make you rich for the new year, Teenie said. Then she added ruefully, Never worked for me, though. She laughed and scooped more into Polly's bowl. And just to pause for a second, that is still an African-American superstition. There are still African-Americans, mostly elder African-Americans, that for New Year's, we always cook a pot of black-eyed peas, not because they think it'll make them rich now, so it's changed over the centuries, but they think it'll bring good fortune. So it's supposed to be like good luck. So you're supposed to eat black-eyed peas. So that's still, and again, that's why when people say, oh, slavery doesn't affect, there's still superstitions and things that we carry from slavery that till this day we still continue to do. So just to say that for a quick second. As Polly ate, she thought with a smile of her mother, who always managed to either undercook the spoon bread, burn the occasional rabbit or squirrel her father brought home, or forget to add spice to the stew. They ate lots They ate lots of fried catfish, some of it quite raw, some of it crispy black. When her mother had fixed Hopping John, it was crunchy and gritty, obviously not cooked as long or as well as Teeny's meal. Polly glanced at the girl, who insisted her name was Amari, and saw that her thoughts were far from this warm kitchen as well. So kind of remember, Amari had just went through a terrible ordeal. We as the reader know it, but Polly has no idea. Now, Teenie probably has an idea, because remember, Teenie is a slave, and there's stories about, the Middle Passage and all that stuff. So Teenie has a really good idea what she's gone through, not to mention whatever struggle she's gone through as a slave on a plantation. Polly has no idea. So where Polly looked at her earlier, we're talking about her table manners, like Amari is starving. Like she hasn't eaten that well in a while. So she's not worried about quote unquote table manners or American table manners. Plus in her tribe, it may be okay or not looked at as being bad for them to do what she did. So remember, Polly's just basing a lot of this stuff off of her own sensibilities. Tidbit watched every move the girls made. He giggled every time Amari stuffed her fingers into the bowl. What's the dog's name? Polly asked Tidbit. Hush Puppy, the boy replied cheerfully as he reached down to hand the dog a scrap of bread. He know how to hush and hide, the boy said proudly. I'm going to give you two guys a couple of days to learn your way around here before I put you to work, Tinny told them as they finished eating. And Tidbit, I done told you to keep that raggedy old dog out of my kitchen. The boy just laughed and disappeared under the table with the dog. Come by here tomorrow and watch me work, Teenie continued. That's the best way to learn. Just stay out of my way, because I'll be busier than a stump-tailed cow in fly time. I fixes all the meals around here. Before Polly could respond, Teenie added, your job, Miss Polly, is to explain everything you see to this here African gal. Teach her the words, because Master ain't going to wait no long time for he be expecting her to hold her own. And Miss Africa, learn what words you can, but learn to keep your mouth shut, because Clay, that hellhound, got less patience than his daddy. She grunted with the taste. That boy got a thumping gizzard for a heart. Yes'm, Polly mumbled. Girl, where you from? I done told you about calling me ma'am and miss. Your mama done raised you right, she said with a grin. Tidbit giggled from under the table. I'm from Beaufort, in the low country, Polly explained. Nothing much there but bugs and gators and a few folks scraping the dirt to make do. My mother is dead. My father as well. She swallowed hard. Oh, child, how they die? Teeny's face grew tender. And we'll pause right there, right before Polly gets into her conversation, talking about her parents. So, and we're just being introduced to Teenie and Tidbit. We see that Teeny's very boisterous and loud and she gives a demeanor of someone who's a lot taller than she actually is. She's a very short woman and skinny. But as you can tell she has authority and she runs the place that she can run. So we'll finish this coming back up with the next video. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.